Hello, my dear friends, and welcome. If you are new here, I am so happy you found your way to this channel today. And if you are one of my returning friends, thank you so much for coming back and spending this time with me. It truly means so much to me, and I never take your presence here for granted. Today, I want to talk about something very tender, very honest, and perhaps something many of us feel but don't always put into words, and that is this: what aging took from me and what it gave back. Now, this is not going to be one of those conversations where I pretend that getting older is easy all the time. It isn't. Aging asks something of us. It humbles us. It surprises us. It changes the way we move through the world world sees us, and sometimes even the way we see ourselves. But I also don't want this to be a gloomy conversation, because that would not be the truth either. The truth is that aging takes certain things, yes, but if we are paying attention, if we stay open, if we do not let ourselves become bitter, it also gives something back. Sometimes something deeper, sometimes something calmer, sometimes something more beautiful than what was lost. So today, I simply want to share, heart to heart, some of the things aging has taken from me, and some of the precious things it has returned. And as always, when we finish, I would love for you to share in the comments what aging has taken from you and what it has given you in return, because your wisdom, your honesty, and your life experience matter very much here. So let's begin. The first thing aging took from me was the illusion that I had endless time. When we are young, we live as though life is stretching out forever in front of us. Even when we know, intellectually, that time is precious, we don't quite feel it in our bones yet. We postpone things. We think there will always be another season, another chance, another year, another right moment. We say, someday. Someday I'll take the trip. Someday I'll speak my truth. Someday I'll wear what I want. Someday I'll stop worrying so much. Someday I'll rest. Someday I'll start living more honestly. But aging took that illusion from me. At a certain point in life, you begin to feel time differently. It becomes more real. The years no longer feel abstract. You begin to realize that the days are not just passing, they are your life. This day is your life. This afternoon is your life. This conversation, this cup of tea, this walk, this phone call, this ordinary Tuesday, this is it. And although that realization can feel sobering, even a little sad, what aging gave back to me was urgency in the right direction. Not panic, not desperation, but clarity. It gave me the understanding that if something matters, do not keep postponing it. If there is love to be expressed, express it. If there is forgiveness to be offered, offer it. If there is some small joy you've been denying yourself for no good reason, perhaps now is the time. If there is a life you still want to shape, begin with what you have. Aging took away the fantasy of all the time in the world, but it gave me something much more valuable, the desire to use my time more truthfully. And that, to me, is a gift. The second thing aging took from me was the need to impress everyone. Oh, how exhausting that was. When we are younger, whether we admit it or not, many of us spend so much of our lives trying to be enough in the eyes of others. We want to be admired, approved of, accepted, praised. We want people to think we are doing well, looking well, coping well, succeeding well. We may not say it out loud, but so much of our energy goes into managing perception. How do I look? What do they think of me? Did I say the wrong thing? Do I seem accomplished enough, attractive enough, interesting enough, put together enough? And if we are not careful, we can spend years performing a version of ourselves for the comfort or approval of others. Aging slowly began to strip that away from me. Not all at once. Life is rarely that dramatic. But little by little, with each disappointment, each loss, each chapter closing, each mirror changing, each relationship revealing itself, I began to understand something. Most people are far too busy living their own lives to think about us nearly as much as we imagine. And even if they are judging us, so what? What a freeing thing that is to realize. What aging gave back to me was the courage to value peace over performance. I no longer want to impress everyone. I would much rather feel at home in myself. I would rather have a peaceful day than a glamorous one. I would rather have a sincere conversation than a flattering one. I would rather be respected by a few than approved of by many. I would rather live a life that feels true than one that merely looks good from the outside. That is one of the quiet freedoms aging can bring, if we let it. The third thing aging took from me was certain outer advantages of youth. Now let us be honest about that too. Aging changed my face. It changed my body. It changed my energy. It changed the speed with which I bounce back from stress or sleeplessness. It changed what I can take for granted physically. And yes, it changed how the world responds to me in some ways. There is no point pretending otherwise. Youth is often treated like currency in this world. We know that. We feel that. There are certain doors that open more easily when you are younger, certain assumptions people make, certain kinds of attention that come without your even asking for it. Aging took some of that away. But what it gave back to me was something so much more stable, and that is freedom from being ruled by appearance. When you are no longer trying to preserve an image that cannot stay forever, you begin to ask a more meaningful question. Who am I becoming? Not how do I compare, not do I still measure up, but is there warmth in me? Is there character in me? Is there grace in me? Is there substance in me? Have I become someone whose presence brings peace? There is a kind of beauty that youth carries, yes, freshness, vitality, bloom, but there is another kind of beauty that only time can make. It comes from surviving. It comes from grieving and still loving. It comes from learning restraint. It comes from accepting imperfection. It comes from living long enough to have been polished by life. And I truly believe that kind of beauty has depth. Aging may have taken from me the ease of being outwardly young, but it gave me the possibility of becoming inwardly beautiful in a way I could not have understood before. The fourth thing aging took from me was my tolerance for nonsense. Now, perhaps that makes me smile a little because I think many of you will understand exactly what I mean. There was a time in my life when I would explain away poor behavior. I would be overly patient with one-sided relationships. I would sit through draining conversations. I would tolerate criticism I should have challenged. I would spend far too much time trying to understand people who had no intention of understanding me. And why? Because like many women, I was taught to be accommodating, to be nice, to smooth things over, to not make trouble, to keep the peace at almost any cost. But aging has a way of clarifying what is worth your precious energy and what is not. As the years go by, you begin to notice how tired you feel after certain interactions. You begin to understand that not every invitation deserves a yes, not every opinion deserves a response, not every relationship deserves continued access to your heart. Aging took away my willingness to endlessly manage what should not have to be managed, and what it gave back to me was discernment. What a beautiful gift discernment is. To know the difference between a rough season and a toxic pattern. To know the difference between loneliness and settling. To know the difference between kindness and self-abandonment. To know when to step in and when to step back. To know when silence is wise and when truth must be spoken. At this stage of life, I believe peace is far too precious to hand over cheaply. That does not mean becoming hard or unloving. It simply means becoming clearer, kinder perhaps, but also wiser, softer in some ways, stronger in others. And I think that is one of the gifts of aging that many people do not talk about enough. The fifth thing aging took from me was some of my innocence about life. When we are younger, we tend to believe certain things rather wholeheartedly. We believe that if we are good, life will always be fair. We believe love will protect us from loss. We believe people mean what they say. We believe hard work is always rewarded. We believe families naturally know how to love one another well. We believe time heals everything quickly. And then life teaches us otherwise. Life teaches us that good people can suffer, that love can be real and still end, that grief can stay much longer than expected, that betrayal can come from where you least expect it, that some apologies never come, that some dreams do not turn out the way you planned, that some chapters close without the tidy ending you thought they would have. Aging took from me some of those innocent assumptions. But strangely enough, what it gave back to me was compassion. Because once you understand that life can wound people in ways you cannot always see, you become gentler. You stop assuming everyone who is quiet is cold. You stop assuming everyone who is sharp is strong. You stop assuming everyone who looks fine is fine. You begin to understand that almost everyone is carrying something. The woman in the grocery store may be lonely. The man who seems impatient may be afraid. The friend who has gone quiet may be grieving. The person who disappointed you may be more broken than cruel. Now, this does not mean we excuse bad behavior, not at all. But it does mean we begin to see more deeply. Aging took some innocence from me, yes, but it gave me softer eyes. And I think the world needs softer eyes. The sixth thing aging took from me was the idea that I had to keep every part of my old identity. This is something that can be difficult because many of us build our identities around roles. We are the mother, the wife, the beauty, the helper, the busy one, the successful one, the needed one, the strong one, the responsible one, the one who keeps it all together. But what happens when life changes those roles? What happens when the children grow up? When retirement comes? When the marriage changes? When the body changes? When the house is quieter? When people no longer need you in the same way? It can be deeply unsettling. Aging took away some old versions of me that I thought I would always be. And at first, that can feel like loss. In some ways, it is loss. We must be honest about that. There is grief in change. There is grief in becoming unfamiliar to yourself for a time. But what aging gave back to me was the chance to meet myself more truthfully, without the role, without the performance, without the urgency, without so much noise. Who am I now? What do I love now? What matters to me now? What kind of life feels right now? These are sacred questions, and I think one of the hidden blessings of aging is that it gives us permission to become simpler and more genuine, to release identities that no longer fit, to stop forcing ourselves into old clothing for the soul, to say, that was me once, and she got me here, but perhaps now I am becoming someone new. And there is no shame in that. The seventh thing aging took from me was certain people, and this is perhaps the tenderest part of all. Aging, if we live long enough, will bring loss. It takes people. It takes parents, partners, siblings, friends, neighbors, companions from different seasons of life. Sometimes it takes them through death, sometimes through distance, sometimes through misunderstanding, sometimes simply through the natural drift of life. And no matter our age, loss hurts. There are empty chairs. There are phone calls you can no longer make. There are stories that live only in your memory now. There are people who knew your younger self, and when they are gone, a certain mirror of who you were goes with them. That is painful. Aging took some beloved people from my daily life, but what it gave back to me was a deeper reverence for love. You stop taking presents for granted. You stop assuming there will always be another Christmas, another birthday, another ordinary visit. You begin to see how holy the simplest moments really are. A conversation at the kitchen table, a familiar laugh, a hand on your shoulder, a shared memory, a dog waiting at the door, someone saying, "Call me when you get home." These things become luminous when you understand they are not guaranteed. Loss also teaches us something else, if we let it. It teaches us to love more openly while we still can, to say the words, to write the note, to make the call, to not always wait for the perfect moment, because often the perfect moment is simply now. The eighth thing aging took from me was my fear of starting over. Now that may sound like a strange thing to say, but I believe it's true. When we are younger, starting over can feel terrifying because we imagine it means we have failed. Failed at marriage, failed at career, failed at family life, failed at stability, failed at the image we thought we were supposed to maintain. But by the time you have lived a while, you begin to understand that life is made of chapters, and not all chapters are meant to last forever. Sometimes the house changes, sometimes the city changes, sometimes the relationship changes, sometimes your interests change, sometimes your faith deepens or transforms, sometimes your priorities become almost unrecognizable from what they were before. And that is not failure. That is life moving. Aging took from me the fantasy that everything meaningful must be decided once and for all. And what it gave back to me was trust in renewal. The trust that something new can begin after loss, that joy can return after grief, that purpose can return after retirement, that companionship can return after loneliness, that confidence can return after heartbreak, that your life is not over simply because one chapter ended. I think that is such a beautiful truth, because many women believe they are too old to begin again, too old to change, too old to create a different routine, a different home, a different version of peace. But as long as there is breath in you, something can still begin. Maybe quietly, maybe slowly, maybe humbly, but still, it can begin. And finally, perhaps the greatest thing aging took from me was the illusion that life could be controlled. Oh, we do like to think we are managing it all, don't we? We make plans, we prepare, we organize, we protect, we try to predict, we try to avoid pain, we try to shape outcomes. And then life reminds us again and again that so much is not in our hands. Health changes, people change, worlds change, circumstances shift, doors open and close, the unexpected arrives. Aging took from me the belief that if I just did everything right, I could secure life against uncertainty. But what it gave back to me was something much gentler and much wiser: surrender. Not defeat, not passivity, but surrender. The kind that says, I will do my part, but I will not destroy my peace trying to control what is not mine to control. That is a deep relief. To tend your garden and leave the weather to God. To love people and release the outcome. To care for your body and accept that it is human. To make plans and still remain open. To do what you can and then soften your grip. There is such maturity in that. So, my dear friends, what did aging take from me? It took the illusion of endless time, the need to impress, some of youth's outer ease, my tolerance for nonsense, some innocence about life, old identities, certain beloved people, my fear of beginning again, and the illusion of control. But what did it give back? Clarity, peace, depth, discernment, compassion, truth, reverence, renewal, and surrender. And if I'm being very honest, I would say this: I would not want all of youth back if it meant losing what age has taught me. Because there is a richness that only comes after you have lived through enough to know what really matters. Aging is not always graceful. It is not always easy. It is not always kind. But if we meet it with openness instead of resistance, it can make us more real, more tender, more awake, more grateful, more ourselves. And perhaps that is one of the finest exchanges life offers. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If this conversation touched your heart, I would love for you to share in the comments what aging has taken from you and what, unexpectedly, it has given back. I always love hearing from you, and your words are such a comfort and encouragement to this whole community. And until next time, please do something lovely for yourself today. Step outside for a little air, make your favorite cup of tea, call someone you love, or simply sit quietly and honor how far you have come. Thank you again, and I hope to see you in my next video.